What's going on, YouTube?
Boo.
It's your boy. Yeah. All right, let me see. Welcome back, y'all. Let me put my headset back on. Welcome back to another NFL DFS video with your boy. GreenlightDFS.com. You already know. Join the squad. Drop a like down below. Hold on. Let me get situated. Drop a like down below to enter your name into the $50 giveaway I do every single week on this channel. Thank y'all for joining me as always. My son wanted to do the intro, so I gave him a shot. Thank y'all for joining me, man. As you guys know, earlier on in the week, we do the first look lineup where we pretty much just talk about the guys that we're putting in the first look lineup. And then later on in the week, today, Fridays, we do a full slate breakdown where we go position by position and talk about everybody that we're really interested in. All right? So, and why maybe we have interest in them. So, looking at quarterback, I'm not going to keep up too much of y'all's time. We're going to go pretty much through this pretty simply, all right? At the top of the list, Patrick Mahomes is a great option. If you play Patrick Mahomes, you want to pair him with a Kelsey, probably. Most likely that's what you're doing. But yeah, always correlate. As you guys know, every time we come in and we look at quarterbacks, make sure you're playing a quarterback unless they're a Jalen Hurts type or a Lamar Jackson or an Anthony Richardson where you don't have to pair them because they've got that rushing ability. Then pair your quarterback up. So if you go Kirk Cousins, pair him with Jefferson. If you go Tua, pair him with a Waddle or a Tyreek. If you go Burrow, pair him with a Chase or something like that. So that's kind of immediately what you need to figure out is what spot do you want to get involved with there. Another thought process is, okay, I want to get Cousins and Jefferson. Who am I going to run it back with on Kansas City? Do they have anyone on Kansas City that I'm down to run that back with? Okay, yeah, I'll run it back with Kelsey. Let's see. If I want to go Tua, then you need to be ready to go Tua with Tyreek, but you need to know who you want to run it back with on the Giants side because that's what correlation is. All right? So looking over the quarterback options, and I mean, there's some great positions here. I mean, you've got the Mahomes option that we talked about. He's probably the top overall quarterback on the slate. And then you've got in that same game Kirk Cousins, who's 6'9", much cheaper. And then you've got Zach Wilson at 4'9" as a value option this week. Zach Wilson looks really, really good to me because the only issue with Zach Wilson is the run back options. Like, who do I want to run him back with? That's the decision I have to make. And honestly, when he's with him at 4'9", you don't have to run it back because he's so cheap that a decent score will be enough probably as long as the other people that you're spending up for because you're grabbing that value of Zach Wilson works out for you. But yeah, Zach Wilson at 4'9", solid. I like the pairing of him with Garrett Wilson. It's a cheap little pairing. And at 4'9", I mean, you could do worse than him at 4'9". He looked like he got his shit together last game. Who knows, though? He could come back down to reality pretty easily. Anthony Richardson is another guy that looks very interesting to me just off his rushing ability. He's always a guy that's an option. You can pair him with Pittman. On the Tennessee side, you could run that back with DeAndre Hopkins or Derrick Henry or whatever, something like that. So Anthony Richardson is an option. Tua is an option. I think Miami could absolutely spank the Giants here. I don't know if there's anyone on that Giants side I would care to run it back with. If you do, then you need a receiver because Giants are going to be throwing a ton. But yeah, it's tough correlation with him. But yeah, mainly just to sum it up, when it comes to quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, Anthony Richardson, Zach Wilson, if I'm punting. That's pretty much the core of guys that I have a ton of interest in this week. Okay? That core that I just spoke on. All right? Running back. When it comes to running back, I'm still high on a few guys. I talked about him earlier in the week. David Montgomery in this very run-heavy script at 6'6". I love David Montgomery this week. Breece Hall is a guy that could really get going for the Jets, especially in a game that's expected to be competitive. At 5'4", Breece Hall's got a ton of talent. We know he had huge breakout games last season before he got hurt. He is a big-time running back. He is very talented. He's going to have a great career as long as he can stay healthy. Breece Hall is great. Bijan Robinson is in a very plus matchup against Houston. You're having to spend a premium on him, though, at 7-7. He's a solid option. If we look at the options as well, we have A-Chain at 6'1". A Chain's a good option here. I really, really like him. Yes, he's splitting with Mostert, and you know that's never a situation you really love. But in this situation for Miami in a big blowout spot against the Giants, they're going to run a lot of this dude over Mostert. So you're going to see a lot of him. Plus, he's playing a good amount of snaps on a high total Miami offense. Really good spot there for him. So I really like A Chain as well. Still, DeAndre Swift I like once again. It's a big favorite spot for Philly. Should run the ball a good bit. Only 6K. Definitely a solid option with him as well. Alvin Kamara is back. He's a pretty much wide receiver slash running back. And on Draftkings, full point PPR, he's always an option. But that's really mainly it. It's David Montgomery is my core, one of my core guys. I really like Bijan Robinson if I can get him. A Chain, DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon is another guy that could have a big game in this one. Cincinnati's favored. Could do a lot of running here against Arizona if they in fact are able to get the lead. I mean, their team has been struggling. If they can in fact get the lead, he's going to be solid. It's a bit of a risk with how bad that offense has been, but still. So yeah, Montgomery, Brees Hall, Bijan Robinson, A Chain, Swift, Alvin Kamara, all kind of the core of guys that I'm looking at for running back. For wide receiver, obviously, depending on what you have at quarterback, I really like Garrett Wilson paired up with Zach Wilson as a cheap stack. If you're going Tua, then pair him up with Tyreek Hill. If you have Anthony Richardson, pair him with Pittman, even though you don't have to pair Richardson. You don't have to pair Richardson because of what he could do with his feet. You could play him solo. But I like the pairing of Pittman. I do like Pittman this week. Other guys, Trent Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is an option if you're playing Kirk Cousins, is a fantastic choice there. Um, you can obviously go Puka paired up with Stafford. They're going to be playing from behind against Philly. They're going to have to do a lot of throwing most likely, so you can see a lot of Puka and Stafford again this week. DeAndre Hopkins looks great at 5'7". I really love Hopkins at 5'7". That's so cheap for a guy of his talent level. And they're favored, so it's not a huge passing script, but it's also not a run script. It's a neutral script here in this one. It's in a dome, especially if you have Richardson and Pittman. I really like the Richardson Pittman run back with Hopkins because Hopkins seems too cheap, so I really like Hopkins. So it just kind of correlates well. Richardson, on top of him being able to connect with Pittman, will do so much with his legs as well, man. It's a good spot there. When it comes to value options, Wandale Robinson sticks out to me. Wandale Robinson's a guy who's Bearman 3K. He's been getting more and more opportunity for this Giants offense. They need something. And he's a guy who's been showing some good spark for this offense at times. He's a guy that they're definitely going to want to utilize as much as they can. In a game against Miami where they're going to be behind a ton, it's definitely a solid spot for Wandale Robinson at 3K. A very solid punt option this week. Really, really like him. It makes a lot work in your lineups. And if Wandale goes out and scores a touchdown, and gets 8 catches or something crazy playing from behind, then you're going to have a huge week most likely having a 3K guy go off. So he's a guy who could go off. Another guy who could go off is definitely, how do you say his name? Rashee Rice. He's only 3.6. He's another guy I really, really like this week going against Minnesota. Very, very off, like very fantasy friendly matchup between Minnesota and Kansas City this week. So if it allows you to be able to go Pat Mahomes and pair him with a cheap option, and be able to have that KC stack because of the cheapness. Like I could see a scenario where you could go Patrick Mahomes paired up with Rashee Rice and Kelsey, and then run it back with Jefferson on the other end and maybe grab that other value. I don't know if it's possible because I haven't built a lineup like that, but let's see. For example, let me see if I put Pat Mahomes there. I look at point per salary. Rashee Rice is number one. And then I also grab Kelsey, which obviously Kelsey's expensive, so you're spending a premium there. For those three players, it leaves us with 19.4 remaining. And then if we run it back with, let's say, Wandale Robinson, another value, because you know we're already spending up for Kelsey and Mahomes, right? So we're going to need to do that. And then we have to run it back with Jefferson as well. We got to. It's a must if you're doing that stack. This leaves you. Sorry, it don't leave you with that much left. It puts you at utilizing 31.8. All right, it gives you 45.50 remaining for each position. Defense you can punt. So yeah, I mean this is an option that you could possibly work with. This build right here is extremely correlated, makes a lot of sense, and it's an interesting upside spot. So let me clear that out. But yeah, Just I was curious about that as I'm thinking about it right now, so I just kind of threw that together real quick. But you get the mindset of that. But yeah, the value receivers of Rasheed Rice and Wandale Robinson really make potential in building your lines pretty sexy if you're able to utilize those guys, and they end up doing well. Marquise Brown against Cincinnati playing from behind for Arizona. Zay Flowers has been solid. Who else? Amon-Ra St. Brown against Carolina. Sure, it's just a very favored spot for Detroit. I don't think I'm going to need much Amon-Ra. But you can. He's been getting work, obviously. Let's see. Anybody else stick out to me as a guy? Nico Collins is a guy that's interesting going against Atlanta. They're actually underdogs in this game. So if you go Stroud and Nico and run it back with Bijan Robinson, that's another correlated option. There's many options this week, man. That's part of the fun, man. Part of the fun for me is finding that correlation. Like, for example, check this out. You could go with this too. You could go Tua, you could go Tyreek Hill and Waddle. Or you could just go Tyreek Hill. You don't have to go too hard on this stack if you don't want to. But because you have that cheap run back of Wandale Robinson on the other end of this game. You know what I mean? Like, that's interesting. Or you could just go one of them. You don't have to go both of them. But that's another spend up option that you're able to use because you have that value. So yeah, there the value options are in spots where it's solid correlation. Like with Wandale, you can run it back with some Miami. I mean, solid correlation there. Like so, it's easy build potential with those. All right, let's move on. Let's go to tight end. All right, so when it comes to tight end this week, I again, let's talk about another stack option. All right, let's talk another stack option. Let's go Zach Wilson. Pair him up with Garrett Wilson. Boom. And this is what you could do on the roster, on the lineup builder at Greenlight. Exactly what I'm doing right here. I'm just creating lineups right in your face, just like options due to correlation. Tight end. This is where a lot of my work comes in. A lot of my work comes in just playing with different options and finding something that's perfect in the most optimal version we can go. Check this out. Zach Wilson with Garrett Wilson and Conklin. Okay? And then run back. Let's see what we like on the Denver side that we could run this back on. Let me see. Who's the top projected receiver for Denver on the tool? Cortland Sutton. So you could run that back with Cortland Sutton, or you could play Jerry Jeudy. You can go either of those options. All right, to run it back as well. So that's a choice. I know that Javonte Williams is out, correct? Let me see. Javonte Williams is out this week. So the main man, let me see what we have him projected at. Jaleel McLaughlin is another run back option at 5K. This Jets defense is stout, though, man. It's tough to make that decision on who you want to play there because it's such a stout defense. That's part of the issue with this correlation is you have Wilson, Garrett Wilson, and Conklin. Very cheap, awesome stack with each other, right? But running it back on the other side, you're running it back with a team that not only are every option they have on their team kind of, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but the matchup against that Jets secondary is tough. You know what I mean? So it makes that stat kind of, I'm not sure. I'm unsure. Unsure, if you feel what I'm saying. So, other tight end options, you got Zach Ertz. You've got Travis Kelce. You got Hawkinson in that Minnesota stack. I mean, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Simple roster construction ideas. You got Cousins. You've got him paired up with, where is he? Justin Jefferson, obviously. Okay? You're running it back on the other side with Kelce. You don't even have to just run it back with Kelce. You run it back with Kelce and Rice if you want to. You could go that way, or you could go just one of them. You don't have to go Kelce, or you don't have to go Rice. You could just go Kelce. Whatever you prefer to do, but those are options as well for that game. That's another reason I like that game because there's plenty of correlation among it. Oh yeah, sorry, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking Hawkinson and Jefferson together with Cousins. So this is what I was thinking. This is another option that you could go with. And then Kirk Cousins. So you got Cousins, Jefferson, and Hawkinson, and then running it back, you can go Rice and Kelce. That's a great correlated option as well. All right, and that stack's going to be a little bit cheaper than that. Than the if you go Cousins and Jefferson and Hawkinson, that's cheaper than. No, actually, no, it wouldn't be because of Rashee Rice. The stack of Kansas City is probably cheaper overall. But yeah, man. So that's pretty much it, man. I mean, that's what it comes down to, and it takes a lot of work. As you can see, I just did like three, four, five options, whatever I did, but that's all I do all day. I sit there and work with options. I sit there and look at matchups. I look at data analytics, and I finally come together with what I believe to be the most optimal line, the best correlated option after I've gone over every possible correlated option. I'm gonna do versions where I'm gonna look over versions of Anthony Richardson paired up with Michael Pittman because that looks like a solid option. Then running it back with maybe Derrick Henry, or running it back with the guy that I love a lot, DeAndre Hopkins. And I'm going to look at correlations with those options. I'm going to look at tight end, see if I could play the Colts tight end in that stack, Granson, something. I know there's just so many different options that you could go with. This week especially is a week, man, where we have a lot of options, man. We got some sexy correlated options. We got some good choices. When it comes to defense, you know me, man. I mean, I recommend punting it for the most part. You could do anything. All right, so just spend down at defense most likely, unless you just land on a perfect correlated lineup and you have money and you can go with the top spend up defense, then sure, go ahead. Like if you land on an amount where you can go the top, then sure. But I mean, none of them really feel that great. So I would punt. That's my strategy there. I would punt defense. All right. Thank you guys for joining me as always. This video was a little bit different. We kind of talked about different correlated options. Normally, we don't get into that part. We talk about it a little bit, but yeah, I like the options. I like where I'm headed so far this week. Greenlightdfs.com, you already know. Yeah, but hopefully I was able to get y'all on a few options, a few ideas of how to attack the slate, and hopefully y'all have an amazing week 5, man. Let's get it. Let's keep smashing NFL this season, and I'm out. Greenlightdfs.com. Peace.